I sat in the shower, knees folded to my chest, the water scalding hot, trying to burn off the guilt. My thighs were bruised from the way he held me, marked like ownership. My husband was downstairs, humming while making pancakes. I had deleted. The messages already, "You taste like sin," was the last one. I could still feel his breath in my ear, still hear the way he said thank you like I was a gift he'd unwrapped. The drain gurgled as the water ran red. Not blood, just mascara. But it looked like confession. I told myself it was over. That it was the last time. But even as I whispered the lie into the steam, my hand reached for the wall where he pressed me hours before. I was helping my stepson. That's what I told myself. I used to believe in slow mornings. French press coffee, sunlight spilling across white kitchen tiles, and my husband's sleepy voice reading headlines out loud just to hear me laugh. We were that couple. Quiet, functional, predictable in the way people envy. I wore soft sweaters, kissed his cheek before work, and never once thought about destruction. Now I flinch when my phone buzzes. I sleep with it under my pillow like a guilty teenager. My husband still brings me coffee, but I can't meet his eyes. I stare at the rim of the mug and wonder if he can smell the lies on my breath. I'm trying to retrace the steps, to pinpoint the crack. It wasn't sudden, no explosion, just a slow erosion. Like rust inside a pipe, invisible until something bursts. Maybe it was the miscarriage, or the way he started saying, "We'll try again," like it was a chore. Maybe it was the silence that grew between us after that. Comfortable, sure, but hollow. I remember the first time I noticed him, my stepson, after he came to stay with us post-rehab. He was thinner than I remembered, quieter. His eyes carried the weight of someone twice his age, and his smile was careful, as if afraid it would shatter. He was just a boy then, broken in ways I didn't understand. But I saw something in him I hadn't seen in a long time, rawness, vulnerability without performance. He told me once, months ago, "You look sad when you think no one's watching." I laughed it off, but it stayed with me. My husband never noticed things like that anymore. Now, I sit across from my therapist and pretend I'm there to talk about anxiety. "I can't sleep," I say. "My appetite's off. I feel detached." I don't mention the dreams. I don't say that sometimes I fantasize about the destruction more than the desire. She nods, scribbles something. Her eyes are kind. Too kind. The memories blend in strange ways. Tuesday night dinner with wine and laughter, followed by me locked in the laundry room, breathing into my hands, trying not to replay his voice calling me baby. He wasn't even supposed to be. Home that night, I keep losing time, mixing up which version of myself came first. The wife or the woman hiding under hotel sheets, terrified and alive. I thought I could compartmentalize, be both, but I can feel the walls crumbling. And the worst part is, a part of me wants them to fall. It started the night I found him crying in the garage. It was late, maybe midnight. I'd gone looking for my husband's charger, expecting to find a mess of old paint cans and forgotten junk. Instead, I found him curled up on the workbench, arms wrapped around his knees, trying to muffle the sounds coming out of his chest like he was ashamed of even that. My stepson, 17 when I met him, 23 now. Fresh out of that halfway house in Arizona, 6 months sober. Damaged. "Healing, trying. Hey," I said softly, stepping in before I realized how intimate the moment already felt. He didn't look at me right away, just dragged his sleeve across his face like a boy. His eyes were glassy, hollowed out. "I'm fine," he mumbled, but his voice cracked. He wasn't fine. And I should have walked away. Gotten him water, called my husband, done anything but what I did next. I touched his hair, just a gentle sweep, like a mother would, But it wasn't motherly. Not at all. He looked up at me then. Really looked. His jaw clenched, but his eyes didn't waver. I remember thinking, he sees me. Not the version I put on at dinner, or the polite one in front of neighbors. He saw the woman beneath the mask. I remember the silence stretching thin and breathless between us, until he said, "It's hard. Pretending all the time." And I whispered back, "I know." That was it. The moment, small, fleeting. But something snapped. Or maybe something slipped loose, a thread unraveling. I began watching him after that, subtly at first. The way his muscles moved under his shirt when he fixed the broken railing. The lazy way he drank his coffee, shirtless and oblivious in the kitchen. I started rearranging my schedule to bump into him in the hallway. Started listening for his footsteps at night like they were a lullaby. It wasn't lust. Not at first. It was fascination. He was like a haunted mirror, reflecting back everything I tried to hide. Loneliness, rage, hunger. When he laughed, it felt like a rebellion. When he talked, it was raw, unfiltered. I envied how he could be, so messy, so honest, when I spent my days perfectly polished, smiling on command. One evening, I found his sketchbook on the kitchen table. I knew I shouldn't have looked, but I did. Page after page of jagged lines and aching portraits. One drawing stopped me cold. It was of me. Not idealized, not flattered, just seen. Tired eyes, parted lips, one strap falling off my shoulder. Like he'd caught me in some private moment I didn't know I had. I closed the book, but the damage was done. From that point on, everything felt charged. A passing touch in the hallway. The way he said my name slower than necessary. The knowing. Glance we shared when my husband told a joke I didn't laugh at. Nothing ever explicit. Nothing you could point to. But the air between us was thick with it. I started dreaming about him. Innocent dreams at first. Just sitting on the porch together, smoking cigarettes, saying nothing. But then they shifted. His hands on my throat. My nails digging into his back. He'd whisper things like, "You're not his," and I'd wake up shaking, wet between the thighs, disgusted and trembling. And yet, I didn't stop them. Worse, I started dressing differently around the house. Softer fabrics, lower necklines. I told myself it was about comfort, about reclaiming femininity. But it was for him. Every shirt I wore was a question I didn't dare ask aloud. Do you see me? Do you want me to? He never said anything. Not directly. But one night, he lingered a little too long in the doorway of my room. His eyes flicked to the strap of my nightgown, then back to mine. He didn't smile. Just said, "You should lock your door," and walked away. I sat there afterward, heart pounding like I'd been kissed, violated, worshipped. I didn't sleep. I lay awake, counting ceiling tiles, feeling like I was balancing on the edge of something dark and deep and inevitable. The worst part? I didn't feel afraid. I felt alive. It was never supposed to go further than that. But obsession doesn't care about intention. It only wants fuel, and I gave it everything. I started keeping a journal again, something I hadn't done since I was a teenager. I didn't write in it like a grown woman. I didn't talk about goals or affirmations or self-help garbage. I wrote like I was bleeding, like I was 16, again and drowning in lust and shame and fury. March 9th, 11:47 p.m. He looked at me like he wanted to ruin something. Not just my marriage, but me. I want to let him. I want him to pull me apart like a puzzle and throw away the last piece. Read it back to myself and flushed with humiliation, but I didn't tear it out. I wrote more. I wrote about the way he smelled, like cigarettes, pine soap, and some ghost of boyhood grief. I wrote about the sound of his boots on the stairs and how I could tell it was him before he even reached the landing. I wrote about my thighs pressing together during dinner while my husband talked about refinancing. Sometimes I swore I heard his voice when I was alone, whispering my name behind closed doors, breathing it like prayer. One morning, I saw him in the hallway, shirtless, towel slung low around his hips, water still dripping from his collarbone, and for a moment, I swear, I saw my hands on him. Not in reality, but the vision was so clear, I staggered back. He didn't notice, or pretended not to. Later that night, I touched myself in the bathtub, eyes closed, biting my lip to keep from moaning. But I couldn't picture my husband's face anymore. I couldn't even remember the last time I'd fantasized about him. March 13th, 2:04 a.m. He hasn't said anything. Not really. But he lingers. He waits for me to speak. Maybe he's afraid. Maybe he wants me to break first. Maybe he's not. The predator. Maybe I am. I'd always thought of desire as a thing with rules, logic. Even sin had its categories. What you could want, what you shouldn't. But this was something else entirely. My mind started betraying me. I'd imagine him touching my wrist during dinner. Imagine his breath hot against my ear as I washed dishes. I'd walk into the bathroom and catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror, and for a second, I'd see bite marks that weren't there. Sometimes I'd hear the creak of his door at night and press my palms to my ears, afraid of what I'd want to hear. And then came the night I dreamed he came into my room. It felt so real. He didn't say anything, just pulled the blanket back, crawled in behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist. I could feel the shape of him pressing against my lower back, hot and hard and urgent. I moaned his name before I woke up. Except I didn't wake up. I opened my eyes and the bed was cold, but my panties were damp. My pulse was racing, and the door was half open. I couldn't tell if I'd imagined all of it, or if I wanted it to be real so badly. I had made it real. March 15th, 5:39 p.m. I caught him watching me again, this time in the backyard. I was in my robe, watering the tomatoes. When I turned, he didn't flinch. He just stared, like he was memorizing me. I didn't cover up. I didn't say a word. I think that was the first time I wanted him to touch me more than I wanted to be good. The fantasies took on lives of their own. I couldn't control when they happened anymore. Folding laundry, I'd picture him pinning me against the dryer. During a Zoom meeting, I'd imagine him slipping his hand under the desk, under my skirt, whispering, "You think I don't know what you think about?" While I tried to keep a straight face. I was spiraling, but I liked the spiral. It felt like a secret storm beneath the calm surface of my life. My husband would touch my shoulder and I'd smile and nod while remembering what I'd written the night before. If he told me to leave everything, just walk out, barefoot, no plan, I think I would. That terrified me. Not because it wasn't true, but because it was. One afternoon, I opened the door to his room while he was gone, just to stand in it, just to feel it. I don't know what I was looking for. Maybe proof, maybe a totem, something that could ground me. I found a cigarette butt in a saucer on the windowsill. I held it between my fingers, brought it to my lips, tasted the ash. I was losing my mind. He started leaving the house at night. Long walks, long drives. Sometimes he wouldn't come back, until dawn. My husband never noticed, but I did. I sat in the dark, staring at the driveway, waiting. Once, when he returned, I met him at the door in my robe. Nothing underneath. He stared at me for a long time, jaw tense, breathing heavy. I couldn't sleep, I whispered. He didn't respond, just brushed past me. But our shoulders touched, and the heat that shot through my body made me dizzy. I pressed my back to the door after it closed, heartbeat loud in my ears. The next day, I found a drawing taped to the inside of my closet. Just one line of text below it. You dream louder than you think. I stared at it for hours. I didn't ask him about it, didn't bring it up. I didn't need to, because I knew in that moment that he was just as inside out as I was, that we were both circling the same fire, and it wasn't a matter of if, it was when. It happened on a Sunday, late afternoon. The house smelled like lemon polish and the roast I'd overcooked. My husband had gone golfing with his brother, gone longer than he said he'd be. I should have been folding laundry. I should have been anywhere but leaning in the doorway of my stepson's room, holding a glass of water I never meant to give him. He was sitting on the edge of his bed, sketchbook in his lap, shirtless. His jeans were undone, as if he hadn't expected company, or had. When he looked up at me, I didn't speak. Neither did he. The glass slipped from my fingers, hit the carpet with a soft thud, water pooling around our feet like some silent baptism. He stood slowly, walked toward me, didn't touch me, just said, "You can still leave." I should have. God, I should have. But I shook my head. And when he finally reached for me, it was like being pulled into a riptide, impossible to resist, terrifying in its force. His hands were rough, desperate. His mouth was on mine before I could catch my breath. I think I moaned, or cried, or both. We stumbled backward onto his bed, tangled limbs and unspoken sins. He kissed me like a man starving, like he'd been waiting centuries. I kissed him back like someone who hadn't felt alive in years. When he pushed my dress up, I didn't stop him. When his fingers slipped inside me, I arched against him, shame clinging to my spine. My wedding ring glinted in the dim light. Turn my hand over so I wouldn't have to see it. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. I didn't. When he was inside me, I bit his shoulder to muffle the sound I made, half sob, half release. For a moment, the world blurred. Everything else, my marriage, my name, my age, melted. I was just flesh and hunger and heat. But then it hit me. Mid-thrust, mid-breath, the image of my husband's face. Not angry, not cruel, just gentle. He had packed my lunch that morning, left a note tucked into the napkin. "I'm proud of you. I love you." And there I was, writhing under his sun. Started crying. Not loudly, just silent tears that leaked down the sides of my face into the pillow. He noticed. He stopped. His thumb brushed my cheek. "Are you okay?" he asked. I nodded. Lied. "Don't stop." He didn't. The second time was worse. It was planned. A motel off the highway, 22 minutes from home. We didn't even speak when we got there, just walked to the room like sleepwalkers. I undressed slowly, deliberately. Let him look. Let him know exactly what he was ruining. The sex was slower this time. Softer. But that made it worse. He kissed my scars. My stretch marks. Said, "You're so fucking beautiful," like it hurt to say it. I tried not to cry. But the tears came anyway. Afterward, I sat on the edge of the bed, pulling on my tights, my lipstick smudged, my thighs sore. He reached for me. I flinched. "It's okay," he said. "You don't have to pretend." I didn't know what he meant. I still don't. Maybe he saw something in me I didn't want to admit was real. Maybe he knew I was already breaking. Back home, I showered twice, scrubbed until my skin stung. My husband was in the living room watching old reruns, a beer in, his hand, feet propped up. He looked at me and smiled. "You okay, babe?" I nodded, kissed his forehead, sat beside him, pretended I hadn't just betrayed him in the most grotesque, intimate way possible. That night, I let him make love to me. I closed my eyes and pictured someone else. Afterwards, I curled into him, guilty and hollow. He whispered, "I love you," into my hair. I whispered it back, but it felt like a lie. The third time with my stepson, I said, "I'm sorry," when I came. He didn't ask what for. He knew. It unraveled on a Thursday. My husband came home early from work. Headache, he said. Wanted to lie down for a bit. I'd just gotten out of the shower. My hair was wet. My skin blotched from too hot water and too hard scrubbing. I tried to stay calm, tried to act normal. But I'd left my phone on the kitchen counter. And my stepson, he texted. Not just once. There were 3 messages, stacked like landmines. Still taste you. Need to feel you again. You're mine. Say it. I heard my husband's voice from the kitchen. Low, confused. Babe? Panic gripped my lungs like a fist. I wrapped the towel tighter, walked down the hallway like I was going to my own execution. He was standing by the counter, phone in his hand, brow furrowed. He looked up when I entered. "You left this unlocked." I didn't answer. "What is this?" he asked. But his voice was already hollow, like he knew. I wanted to say something clever, deflect, lie, say it was spam, a prank, anything, but I didn't, because the truth was bleeding out of me already. I saw it in his eyes, the unraveling, the realization. His fingers curled around the phone, then loosened. "Tell me it's not what it looks like," he said, quiet, pleading. I swallowed. My mouth was dry. I made a mistake. His whole face collapsed. "With who?" he asked, voice cracking. Silence. "Please," I begged myself, "don't say it." But he saw the answer on my face before I could form the word. "No." He took a step back like I'd slapped him. "No, no, no." His hands went to his head, pacing, breathing too fast. "How long?" I couldn't lie. Not anymore. 3 months. He let out a strangled sound, not quite a sob, not quite a scream. I raised him. "He's my son." "He's not mine," I whispered. "Not really." His head snapped toward me, disgust curling his mouth. "You're sick." I nodded. He didn't hit me, didn't yell. That would have been easier. He just walked past me, quietly, slowly, like his body weighed too much. I thought he was leaving, but instead he went down the hall, to his room, to his son's room. I followed, barefoot and shaking. He opened the door. My stepson was at his desk, headphones in, sketching something. He looked up, startled, pulled the earbuds free. "Dad?" My husband threw the phone onto the bed. "Explain." There was a pause. Long. Terrible. Then my stepson stood. Didn't deny it. Didn't run. He looked at me. Looked through me. She wanted me first. That was it. Just those 5 words. Like it meant nothing. Like I meant nothing. My husband turned, walked out, didn't slam the door, didn't speak. The silence that followed was worse than any screaming could have been. I stood there, unable to breathe. My stepson was still watching me. Something dark in his expression. Something possessive. "I told you not to leave messages," I whispered. "I wanted him to find out." My throat tightened. "Why?" "Because I'm tired of sneaking around." He stepped closer. "I want you to be mine, all the time. Not just in the shadows." "No," I said, backing away. "This is over." He smiled, a crooked, bitter smile. "You don't get to rewrite the ending just because you feel guilty." I ran, locked myself in the bathroom, pressed my back to the door and slid to the floor. And I screamed. Not out loud, not with sound, but something inside me shattered so violently I thought I'd vomit. Later, I emerged to a quiet house. My husband was gone. Took a bag. The car. My stepson was still there, in the kitchen, calm, sipping coffee. He looked at me like nothing had changed, like we were still in the thick of it, like we could still have the story he wanted. "I'm not leaving," he said, "unless you tell me to." I stared at him, and for one horrible second, I didn't. Because part of me, some broken, selfish, haunted part, didn't want him to. It's been 6 weeks, maybe 7. I don't count days anymore. My husband never came back. No divorce papers, no angry phone calls, just absence, thick and total, like fog that never lifts. He's staying with his sister, I think. Or maybe he fled the country. Who could blame him? My stepson's gone too. Left 2 days after the fallout, just disappeared. No note. No goodbye. I don't know where he went. I don't ask. I imagine motel rooms in strangers' beds, sketches in the margins of stolen hotel notepads. Maybe he's haunting someone else now. The silence is a slow kind of drowning. I go through the motions. Coffee, work, laundry, fake smiles at neighbors who don't know I'm rotting from the inside out. Sometimes I catch myself standing in the doorway of his room, staring at the empty bed like it still holds heat. I sleep with the door open now, like I'm waiting, like I'm hoping. I found one of his drawings last night, tucked behind a dresser. It was of me, not pornographic. Not tender either. Just raw. My mouth slightly open, eyes unfocused, collarbone dark with shading, like bruises blooming under the skin. He saw me more clearly than anyone ever has. Maybe that's the worst part. Tonight, I lay in my bed, with the lamp on and no one beside me. I trace the ring of condensation my wine glass leaves on the nightstand and pretend it's a wedding band, circling back to nothing. Sometimes I hear the creak of his footsteps in the hallway. I know it's my mind playing tricks. Still, I roll onto my side and leave space, just in case. I keep dreaming about him. Not the sex, not even the moments of touch. Just his voice, whispering behind me. "You'll never really let me go." And the sickest part? I think he's right. I think I don't want to. Some ghosts don't haunt you. You invite them in, you make the bed for them, and you leave the door open.